Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure that you subscribe. Does anybody wonder why it is that we know exactly how many Colorado football players are transferring out of Colorado? Does anybody wonder why we know everything about what's going on with Colorado football and the guys who are transferring out? Nobody's stopped to wonder why the people who are leaving are so like vocal. I'm sorry, not vocal, but the people who are leaving, like, have we ever wondered why? Like the jilted lover is the one that always says, "Oh, well, that person never really cared." The jilted lover has always been the one who is the sounding board, the person who tried to cut it off and cut it off quietly, cut it off respectfully. They're always the quiet one on the end, but we hear a lot, and there's a lot of stories being written, right? Now, I'm not here necessarily to defend Coach Prime, but I know it's going to sound like I'm defending Coach Prime, and that's okay because I don't feel any type of way about defending them, but this is not a defense. This is understanding that college football is a business. And not only is it a business, it's a business where the employees, the only power they have is before they get to the job. The only power they have is before they get to the job. And so if you don't make better decisions about the job you take, if you don't make a better decision about the partnership you go into, you're going to find yourself right back in that situation once again. There's no reason to cry about this because this is not changing. I've been beating the table, as have many of you. Been beating the table for years and years and years and years and years about how these college players should be paid, and more specifically and only, college football players should be paid. We've been saying it for a long time. College football players should be paid. College football players should be paid. College football players should be paid. So they said, hey, okay, we heard you. Now college football players can get money. That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. You know what opening up the one-year transfer did? It wasn't for the players. I want y'all to understand this. Opening up that one-year transfer was not for the players. I know that all of you think that it was for the players. And I know that all of you believe that when that 1-year transfer happened, that the 1-year transfer was something that the players could take advantage of. Heck, I believe it as well. I believe it as well. But I want to make sure I'm looking at the camera when I say this. The 1-year transfer is not for the players. See, for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. We know that, right? So for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. And so if we're going to allow these young men and young women to call their own shot and get money off their name, image, and likeness, if we're going to saddle our coaches and our universities with this type of athlete, then we have to have a counterbalance where those coaches can get rid of the players that are not helping them. They can get rid of the players that they don't see the full potential in. That's why the transfer portal was created. I'm sorry, not the transfer portal, because the transfer portal has always been there. That's why the immediate eligibility was granted. Yeah, you can transfer at any time, one time without penalty. But guess what we can now do? We can now tell you thank you for your service at any time, one time without penalty. See, the counterbalance is something that the people without the power never think about. They just want what they believe is the handout. Yo, you should have never stopped that name, image, and likeness. That should have never been in the fight. The fight should have never been name, image, and likeness. The fight should have always been pay us for what you owe us for all the years you hold us. Shout out to Hove. Pay us like you owe us from all the years you hold us. It should have been NCAA and these NCAA member institutions pay us our money. And you know what that would have done? Once you were paid as an employee, then you would have the right to make money off your name, image, and likeness the way that you make money off your name, image, and likeness right now. You know, you still can't use the university to make money off your name, image, and likeness unless the university is in on the deal. You can't go to the Chevrolet. I can't go to Savannah Chevrolet and get a name, image, and likeness deal as a member of Georgia Southern's football team and then go wear all my Georgia Southern stuff in a commercial. I have to be plain clothed as a football player who has a helmet on. Well, you can't see my face most of the time. So if I don't have a heavy social media presence, if I don't put myself out there, if I'm not always visible where you can see my face and it's recognizable, then how am I actually of value as a pitch man for a business? Because the one thing that I do bring to the table, which is my affiliation with this university, I can't even use. So we double all of that back to Coach Prime, who comes into Colorado and says, hey, listen, I'm going to be real with you. A lot of you are not going to be here. I'm coming in with new players. Everybody says, hey, Coach Prime, that's harsh. Why'd you do that? He said, look, man, they were 1-11. That's why I'm here. I would not be here if they were not so bad. He's open. He's honest. He's direct from the beginning. He's one of the only coaches that I know that when he's recruiting players, he's not selling them the world. He's telling them the truth. There are so many of these other recruiting gurus out here, these recruiting wizards who are out here selling a dream, who are out here telling these players what they want them to, like what the players want to hear. They're out here telling the players anything. Hey, man, you can start your freshman year. Hey, man, you can do this. Hey, man, we got this NIL bag for you over here. They're telling them whatever they need to tell them in order to get them signed. And then guess what? They're in the transfer portal getting a 22-year-old to go ahead of them. Right? So year one, you're in there, and year one, you got to deal with the starter, the incumbent starter. And then in year two, you got to deal with the transfer portal guy. And then in year three, you got to deal with the transfer portal guy that's still there for another year and another recruit that they've brought in to try to be better than you. Now you're feeling lost. Now you transfer because somebody lied to you. Coach Prime's never lied to any one of these kids. The ones who are saying, oh, he doesn't care about us, guess what? They might be right. But guess what he didn't say? He never said, I'm going to care about all of these kids that I have no affiliation with and never knew anything about. He never said that. He said I was going to be open and honest with them. And guess what? Some of those guys were open and honest. And as counterbalances come, right? The wide receiver shows out. What does he do? Goes into the transfer portal. I ain't mad at him. Coach Prime shouldn't be mad at him. Montana, Lemoyne Craig. Hey, he saw the writing on the wall. He went out in the spring game, balled out, and said, okay, I'm going to be out. He's got an offer from Arkansas. He should go to Arkansas right now. I watched that game. I watched the game. It was not an impressive receiver performance by any of the guys. I'm not talking about, Lemoyne Craig. I don't just look at the stat books, although stats matter. I'm not going to be one of these people who say the stats don't matter. Stats matter. Can you get buckets? Don't tell me you're a good scorer if you can't get buckets. So stats matter. But those are the receiving core as a whole, not impressive. Right? I looked at the linebacking core, the D line, some smaller bodies there. Yeah, of course he's trying to get better. Of course he's trying to get bigger, faster, stronger. But he's been honest about it. So why do we know all of his numbers? Why don't we know how many transfers? Like, why is it not popping up on my timeline, all of the transfers out of Alabama, or all of the transfers out of Georgia, or all of the transfers out of Oklahoma, out of Texas, out of USC? Like, why are we only hearing about Colorado? Because Prime was vocal about it, because he was honest about it. And now because he's vocal and because he's honest, here comes the hit. Here comes the hit campaign. Here comes the Destroy Prime campaign. It's the same campaign that they used when he was at Jackson State. See, everybody's got revisionist history now of his time in Jackson State, but I was right in the thick of it, covering FCS. In the spring, before the spring started, people called the hiring of Deion Sanders a joke. They called the hiring of Deion Sanders a joke. They said he'd never coach a day. They said it was a publicity stunt. Then he went out in the spring, and they had a decent spring. It was not a bad spring. They were bad the year before. So they had a decent spring. Oh, they got beat though. Oh, look what we told you. Coach Prime now, he doesn't know how to coach. He doesn't know how to coach. He just knows how to talk. No one's going to take him seriously. Then he went out and started pulling in elite level talent. Got the #1 recruit in the nation. Help build facilities. Help put people's names on the map. Got kids to be at HBCU being taken more seriously in the draft. Went undefeated. Lost in the championship game. Not the championship game. Well, yeah, lost in the Celebration Bowl. Did all of that, then people started loving. Then people started to respect. Then people started to understand his vision. Ran it back another year, 2 years undefeated. Regular seasons, SWAC champions, lost in the Celebration Bowl again, and decided to move on. And the hit campaign came again. And now he's over at Colorado, and it started off the same way. Is he really? Oh, well, he only cared about himself. He ran and took the money. He did this. He did that. Blah, 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 blah. Why do we know all of the negatives about Coach Prime's tenures, and nobody takes time to talk about all the positives? Why? Because he's doing it differently. Because he's bucking the status quo. He's not being quiet about it. He's not being demure about it. He's not being humble about it. He's telling people, listen, I came here to win. I can't win with these dudes, so I'm going to bring in people that I think I can win with. Only two things are going to happen. He's either going to prove himself right or prove himself wrong. But Trent Dilfer, a guy who nobody would ever equate with being one of the most cerebral quarterbacks in the game, not like Coach Prime was. Coach Prime was recognized as one of the most cerebral football players in the game. See, the outside world knew him as, oh, well, he's otherworldly athletic. But everybody who knew in football knew that Coach Prime was about his business. About his business. Doesn't drink, never smoke, no drugs. About the business of being the best at his craft. Nobody ever said that about Trent Dilfer. Yet Trent Dilfer went from coaching high school for a couple of years, where he had already been criticized and ridiculed because he did not know how to handle a 17-year-old. They gave that man with that little experience a job at an FBS school. At an FBS school. Not in an FCS school, but an FBS school. Not one person has laughed. Not one person said this was a publicity stunt. Not one person said, oh, that's never going to work. He wasn't even that smart as a quarterback. Guess what? He wasn't. He was trash as a quarterback. He was trash. Even in the year where he was a starting quarterback halfway through the season for the Ravens. He was not good. He just didn't make mistakes. He was not good. He did not go on to have a long and storied career after that. No. Get that bum out of here. I say that respectfully, understanding that when I'm talking about bum, I'm talking about NFL caliber quarterback bum. That's what I'm talking about. When I talk about that, I'm talking about NFL caliber bum. I'm not talking about us. He's he's infinitely better at being a quarterback than I ever would be, than I ever could think about being. So from that standpoint, let me back it up. I never want to be like overzealous. Let me back it up. He's not a bum, right? So with that, I'm just looking at the way in which Coach Prime is being perceived, and I know that everything seems to be pointing towards negative from media entities that don't look like Prime. It's interesting. It's strange to me. Somebody do some research out there. Look at the people who have transferred from Alabama. If Alabama is losing transfers, why would Colorado not lose transfers? If Georgia has people transferring, why would Colorado not have people transferring? The only difference, Kirby Smart doesn't talk about it. Nick Saban doesn't talk about it. You think they're letting all of those transfers from Alabama and Georgia leave school with all of the footage of their practices? These kids want Coach Prime to give them practice tape? Hey, can you give them the tape from practices? No, dude. They spring game, it was on ESPN. If they want to see you perform, show them what you did at the spring game when you had the chance. In front of thousands upon thousands of fans, you had the chance. Show them that film. I'm not giving you my practice film to take to another school that I might have to play. Are you crazy? This is a business. It's not their fault that you guys are too thirsty to say blessed to receive an offer, that you're not doing the business. And it's not their fault that your moms and dads out there are too busy trying to live vicariously through you and not handling your business. If you went over there to Colorado and you're already leaving, and guess what? You probably should not have went there anyway. You know he's applying pressure. If you're not willing to die with the craft, then don't go there. Go somewhere where they're going to hand you something. If you want to work for it, go there. If you're going to understand it, even if you're working there and you're a starter, he's trying to find somebody to replace you. Guess what? That's not something new. The first thing they told me in recruiting, when I became a coach, is the number one rule was to go find the best player at your position group, then go out and try to find recruits that were better than the best player. So I'm going to say that again. My mission was to find out who the best player in my position group was. So if I was coaching the tight ends, who's my best tight end? Okay, now I need to go out and find a tight end better than my best tight end. I need to go out and find a tight end that is better than my best tight end. So this is not anything new. Why are we only hearing about Coach Prime? Why is that the only name that we keep getting? Why does he seem to be the central figure of all of it? Let's write stories and release videos and do all of the social media pieces on the guys defecting from every school. Just look at the way that they frame it. It's an exodus from Colorado, as if those players have been imprisoned at Colorado, as if they have not been taken care of at Colorado. If you followed any of Coach Prime's info, they're being taken care of. If you follow anything Coach Prime do, you know they're living a beautiful life over there in Colorado. Facilities, everything that you would want. It's not a mass exodus. Even after the spring game, Coach Prime said, hey, it's going to be a lot of people leaving. There's going to be a lot of people leaving. He said that after the spring game. So why are we surprised? Why are we acting as if this was not expected? Because it's Coach Prime. Because he said so. And because some of you still can't get over the fact that that man has been able to ascend to this level so quickly. In your minds, it's so quickly. Because I can name for you guys who don't have the background of Deion Sanders, who have ascended to higher levels in a much shorter time than Prime has. Keep your head down out there, Prime. Keep doing your thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what Colorado does this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing what other Louis you got coming. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. You do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, whatever you do. Keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Till next time, peace.